The first sound Caleb heard was the scream of a dying wolf beneath the blackened trees. The second was the crack of his own fist against a rogue's jaw as the wilderness exploded into blood, fire, and shadow. The night belonged to the hunted, and the hunted were running out of places to hide. The forest of Ashvale Hollow had become a battlefield. Ancient trees twisted toward the moon like skeletal hands. Thick fog crawled over the ground, swallowing the fallen and hiding the desperate. The scent of blood stained the air. So did fear. Caleb moved through it like a living nightmare. The ruthless Alpha King of Shadowcrest did not need an army behind him to inspire terror. He carried it with every step. Towering above every warrior around him, Caleb's heavily muscled frame was covered in dark battle armor, scratched from countless fights. His dark hair fell across his forehead, damp from the rain and the violence. His piercing dark gray eyes burned with the cold fury of a predator that had finally cornered its prey. "Do not let them escape," he commanded. His voice was low, controlled, deadly. The Shadowcrest warriors moved instantly. They knew better than to question their Alpha King. For years, Caleb had built his reputation on one truth. Mercy was a weakness. Trust was a weapon enemies used against you. And love was the greatest betrayal of all. A rogue lunged from the shadows, claws extended. Caleb barely looked at him. He caught the attacker's wrist mid-strike and twisted. A sharp crack echoed through the trees. The rogue dropped to his knees. Caleb grabbed him by the throat. "Where's the rest of your group?" The rogue spat blood onto the ground and smiled. "You still search for ghosts, Alpha." Caleb's expression darkened. "What did you say?" The rogue laughed weakly. "The girl you lost." For one brief second, the entire world seemed to become silent. A memory flashed. A girl with red-brown hair running through summer fields, emerald eyes filled with warmth, a small hand holding his when they were young and foolish enough to believe promises lasted forever. A voice whispering that she would never leave him. Then came the fire, the screams, the betrayal, the empty place where she had once stood. Caleb's fingers tightened. The rogue's smile disappeared. "Speak carefully," the rogue swallowed. Everyone knows the Alpha King's weakness. A dangerous silence followed. Caleb released him. Not because he forgave him, because he had already decided the rogue would live long enough to regret speaking. "Take him." Two warriors dragged the rogue away. Caleb turned. His instincts screamed. Something was wrong. The rogues had been moving strangely tonight. They were not attacking. They were running, escaping, protecting something. Or someone. A sudden cry cut through the forest. Not a warrior's cry. Not a rogue's battle scream. A civilian. Caleb's eyes sharpened. There. He vanished into the darkness. Between the trees, a small group of rogues surrounded a terrified family. An older man stood frozen while a young child clung to his leg. And between them, a figure in a dark hood. A healer. The woman stood with both hands raised, a faint silver glow surrounding her fingers. "Run," she whispered to the civilians. One rogue laughed. "You think your little healing magic can stop us?" The healer stepped forward. "I don't need to stop you." Her voice was soft, but there was steel beneath it. "I only need to protect them." The rogue raised his weapon. Caleb arrived before the blade could fall. The impact shook the ground. His body crashed into the rogue, sending him flying through the dirt. The remaining rogues froze. The Alpha King's presence was overwhelming. The healer turned, and that was when Caleb saw her. She moved quickly, trying to shield the civilians behind her. Her hood covered most of her face. Only a few strands of red-brown hair escaped into the moonlight. Something inside Caleb twisted. No. Impossible. The healer looked at him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then another rogue attacked from the side. Caleb reacted instantly. He grabbed the healer and pulled her away, but she fought him. A mistake. A fatal mistake. His instincts took control. He slammed her against the ground. The earth cracked beneath her. His massive hand pinned her wrist above her head. The other pressed against her shoulder, holding her completely still. Stop fighting. His voice was a warning. The healer froze, not because of his command, because his face was inches from hers. Caleb reached for her hood. He wanted to see who was brave enough to stand against him. He wanted to see the enemy who had hidden among his people. He wanted to see a stranger. But the moment his fingers pulled the fabric away, time stopped. The hood fell. Cascading red-brown hair spilled across the dark earth. A breathtaking face appeared beneath the moonlight. And then those eyes looked at him. Emerald green. Bright. Beautiful. Familiar. Caleb forgot how to breathe. The forest disappeared. The battle disappeared. There was only her, Elara, the girl who had once been his entire world, the girl who had held his heart before she shattered it, the girl who had betrayed Shadowcrest, the girl who had vanished and left him with nothing but rage and unanswered questions. His grip tightened without meaning to. No. The word escaped him like a broken whisper. Elara stared at him. Confusion crossed her face. Then fear. Real fear. Not the fear of someone caught committing a crime. The fear of someone facing a stranger who looked at her like he wanted to destroy her. Caleb searched her eyes, looking for guilt, looking for deception, looking for any sign that the woman beneath him was the same person who had destroyed him. But he found nothing. Only confusion. Only terror. Who sent you? Elara's breathing trembled. I don't know what you're talking about. The answer enraged him. His jaw tightened. Do not lie to me. I'm not lying. Her voice cracked. I don't know you. Those words hit harder than any blade. Caleb went completely still. She didn't recognize him. Impossible. She had looked into these eyes before. She had touched his face. She had promised him forever. You expect me to believe that? Elara swallowed. I don't know who you are. A strange emotion moved through him. Anger, pain, disbelief, and something far more dangerous. Hope. He hated that last one. Hope was how she had destroyed him the first time. Caleb stood slowly, pulling her up with him. The warriors around them watched in silence. They knew. They had heard the stories. They knew the missing girl from their alpha's past had returned. But none of them dared speak. Elara tried to step back. Caleb's hand immediately caught her arm. The reaction was instinctive, protective, possessive, and he hated himself for it. You have no idea what you've done. Her brows furrowed. I haven't done anything. His expression hardened. You took everything from me. Elara looked at him as if he were a stranger accusing her of a crime she could not remember. I don't even know your name. That sentence cut deeper than he expected. Caleb stared at her, the woman who had once known every secret inside his soul, the woman who now looked at him like he was a monster. Maybe she was acting, maybe it was another betrayal, maybe the gods were cruel enough to bring her back only to break him again. But then he saw her hands. They were shaking, not with guilt, with fear. And Caleb knew fear. He knew every expression people wore when they tried to hide the truth. Elara was afraid because she believed she was innocent. That possibility was more terrifying than any lie. Take the civilians to safety, Caleb ordered. His warriors moved. Elara watched them leave. Then she looked back at him. What are you going to do with me? Caleb stepped closer. Too close. The air between them became suffocating. You are coming with me. Her eyes widened. No. The defiance surprised him. A flicker of the old Elara, the girl who had always challenged him, the girl who had never been afraid of his anger. I won't hurt anyone, she said. I only heal. Caleb's expression became unreadable. That is exactly what makes you dangerous. Before she could answer, dark energy formed around his hands. Elara felt it before she saw it. Magic. Cold. Ancient. Powerful. Black shadows twisted around her wrists. She gasped. The magical cuffs locked into place. These will prevent you from using your abilities. Her eyes dropped to the restraints, then lifted back to his face. You think I'm your enemy? Caleb stared at her. I know you are. But the words sounded less certain than he wanted. He pulled her closer. The movement was rough, controlled. Yet the moment her body touched his chest, something inside him reacted violently. Her scent, the same scent from years ago, wildflowers after rain, warm sunlight. Home. His wolf stirred. Mate. The word came from the deepest part of him. Caleb immediately buried it. No, not again. Not after everything. Elara felt the tension in his body. She looked up at him. For the smallest moment, their eyes met, and Caleb saw something that terrified him. She wasn't pretending. She truly didn't remember. He forced himself to look away. Ride. The journey back to Shadowcrest Castle was silent. The darkness followed them through the forest. Caleb rode at the front, but he could feel her presence behind him. Every movement, every breath, every moment she shifted against the bindings. It drove him insane, because his mind remembered the betrayal, but his body remembered love. He remembered holding her hand. He remembered her laughter. He remembered believing she was the only person in the world who would never hurt him. Then he remembered waking up to ruins, the pack broken, his trust destroyed, and Elara gone. A traitor, a ghost, a wound that never healed. Now she was alive, sitting behind him, close enough to touch, far enough to destroy him all over again. The gates of Shadowcrest Castle appeared through the mist, a fortress carved from black stone, rising above the mountains like a warning to the world. Elara stared at it silently. Caleb noticed. You don't remember this place either? She shook her head. No. His fingers tightened around the reins. Every answer only created more questions. Who was she now? Was she truly innocent? Or was she simply more dangerous than before? The castle gates opened. The warriors lowered their heads as Caleb entered. The Alpha King had returned, and he had brought back the woman who had broken his heart. Caleb dismounted. Then he turned toward Elara. For a moment, he simply looked at her. The anger was still there, the betrayal, the pain. But beneath it all was something darker, something he could not kill, something that had survived years of hatred. You will tell me the truth, he said. Elara looked up at him. I wish I could. His expression hardened. Then you will suffer until you remember. The words were cruel, but his eyes betrayed him. Because the moment she looked away, Caleb's hand curled into a fist. He had spent years dreaming of revenge, years imagining the moment he would finally face the woman who destroyed him. But he had never imagined that revenge would feel like standing beside the only person he had ever loved and realizing she might have forgotten she ever loved him at all. The chamber was beautiful, and that was what made it terrifying. Elara stood in the center of the enormous room, staring at the walls of polished black stone, the silver candles floating in the air, and the massive bed covered in dark velvet. It was not a dungeon. There were no chains attached to the walls, no cold stone floor, no iron bars. Instead, everything was elegant, expensive, almost painfully comfortable. A prison designed by someone who wanted her to forget she was trapped. The heavy doors closed behind her with a deep magical sound. A barrier, not a lock. A warning. Elara walked toward the door and pressed her fingers against the surface. A sharp pulse of dark energy pushed her back. She stumbled. The magical cuffs around her wrists glowed faintly. She looked down at them. The shadows wrapping around her skin felt cold, but they did not hurt. That confused her more than anything. Caleb could have harmed her. He had the power to destroy her, yet he had only restrained her. Why? The question haunted her. Everything about him felt like a contradiction. His eyes looked at her like she was his greatest enemy. But his actions were different. A prisoner did not receive silk blankets. A prisoner did not have fresh food waiting every morning. A prisoner did not have guards stationed outside the door who looked more afraid of what might happen to her than what she might do. Elara walked to the window. Below, Shadowcrest Castle stretched across the mountain like a dark kingdom built from ancient nightmares. She could feel the weight of the place, the pain, the memories hidden inside the stone, and somehow she felt connected to it, like a forgotten song she almost remembered. But every time she reached for the memory, there was only darkness, a blank space. Nothing before 12 years old. Nothing. She closed her eyes. Why couldn't she remember? Why did Caleb look at her like she had destroyed his entire world? A knock suddenly echoed. Elara turned. The door opened. A group of Shadowcrest warriors entered. Their expressions were cold. One of them stepped forward. So this is her. Elara remained silent. The warrior looked her up and down with disgust. The traitor who abandoned our alpha. Another warrior laughed. I expected someone more dangerous. His gaze dropped to her restraints. She looks weak. Elara's fingers tightened. I don't know what you think I did. The first warrior's face twisted. You expect us to believe that? The room grew colder. Your lies destroyed this pack. Elara looked away. She had heard the accusation so many times already, but she had no memory of committing any crime. No memory of Caleb, no memory of Shadowcrest, only fragments, broken pieces, a feeling of loss she couldn't explain. The second warrior stepped closer. You should be grateful the Alpha King hasn't executed you. Something inside Elara tightened. Before she could answer, the entire room shook. Not from an attack, from power. A crushing, invisible force filled the chamber. The warriors froze. A dark aura swept through the doorway. Caleb stood there. His expression was terrifying. His eyes were no longer human. They were the eyes of a wolf preparing to tear apart anything that threatened what belonged to him. Leave. The warriors immediately lowered their heads. My king, I said. His voice dropped. Leave. The command carried pure alpha dominance. The warriors did not argue. They disappeared instantly. The moment the door closed, Caleb's aura faded slightly, but the anger remained. Elara stared at him. You protected me. His expression hardened. Do not misunderstand. Then why? Caleb walked closer. Every step felt heavy, dangerous, because no one touches what belongs to me. Elara's breath caught. The words were possessive, intense, yet there was pain behind them. I don't belong to you. A flash of something crossed his face. Anger, hurt. Then it vanished. You did once. The words were barely above a whisper. Elara looked at him. Caleb looked away first. That surprised her. A man like him did not seem like someone who avoided anything. But when it came to her, he looked almost afraid. The days inside Shadowcrest Castle passed slowly. Elara learned quickly. The pack hated her. They whispered when she walked through the halls. They watched her like she was a monster wearing a woman's face. But Caleb never allowed anyone to approach her. Not once. When a servant refused to bring her food, Caleb appeared within minutes. When a warrior questioned why she was allowed outside her chamber, Caleb's warning was enough to silence the entire hall. He was cruel. He was ruthless. He was terrifying. But no one was allowed to hurt her. And Elara did not understand why, especially because Caleb seemed determined to hate her. Every glance carried anger. Every word carried accusation. Yet every time danger came near her, he became something else. A shield, a protector, a man fighting against his own instincts. On the third night, Elara heard the door open. She was sitting beside the window. Caleb entered alone. No guards, no armor, just him. The absence of his battle gear somehow made him more dangerous, because she could see him clearly. The powerful shoulders, the muscular frame, the scars covering parts of his skin, the exhaustion hidden beneath his cold expression. You should sleep. Elara looked at him. You should stop watching me. A faint, humorless smile appeared. You always hated being watched. The familiarity in his voice unsettled her, because he spoke like he knew her, like he remembered things she had lost. I don't know who you think I am. Caleb stepped closer. That is convenient. Her face tightened. You really believe I betrayed you? I know you did. Then why are you here? The question stopped him. For a moment, his expression cracked, only slightly, but she saw it. Pain. You want to know why? His voice became quieter. Because after all these years, I still wanted an explanation. Elara stared at him. Caleb's eyes darkened. You disappeared. The accusation came out like a wound reopening. You left my pack to die. I didn't. You stood beside the enemy. I don't remember. Stop saying that. His voice suddenly exploded. The windows shook. Elara flinched. And the moment she did, Caleb froze. Because he saw it. She was afraid of him, not pretending, not manipulating, actually afraid. The realization seemed to hurt him. His anger faded. Before I was 12? Elara whispered. Caleb looked at her. What? She swallowed. I remember nothing before I was 12. Silence. I woke up alone. Her voice trembled. I didn't know my name. I didn't know where I came from. I only knew how to heal. Caleb stared at her. The darkness in his expression shifted. You expect me to believe someone erased your memories? I don't know. A tear slipped down her cheek. But I know I didn't choose to forget. Something inside Caleb moved. He hated it. He hated that a single tear from her could weaken him. He hated that some part of him wanted to believe her. He stepped closer. You were my mate. The words left him before he could stop them. Elara froze. What? Caleb's jaw tightened. You heard me. A strange warmth moved through her chest. A feeling she didn't understand. That isn't possible. Why? Because I don't remember loving you. The words were quiet, but they destroyed him. Caleb looked away. For the first time, Elara saw how much pain he carried. Not anger, not hatred, grief. You remember nothing. His voice was cold again, so you get to walk away from everything you did. I didn't do anything. His eyes snapped back to hers. Then prove it. The challenge hung between them. Elara stepped closer. I would if I knew how. For one dangerous moment, neither moved. They were inches apart. The air became heavy. Caleb could feel her heartbeat. She could feel the heat of his body. Everything between them screamed familiarity. Something ancient. Something unfinished. His hand lifted slightly, almost touching her face. Then he stopped. His fingers curled into a fist. No. The word sounded like he was fighting himself. He stepped away. You are still the greatest threat to my kingdom. Elara wiped her tears. And you are still the cruelest man I've ever met. A faint spark appeared in his eyes, because that sounded like the old Elara. The girl who challenged him. The girl who never surrendered. Then the castle screamed. Both of them turned. The sound came from below. A howl. A painful, unnatural howl. Then another, then dozens. Caleb's expression changed instantly. Not anger, fear. The lower levels. A dark shadow moved through the castle. Not normal darkness. Something alive. Something corrupted. The walls trembled. Screams echoed through the halls. Caleb disappeared. Elara followed. The moment she opened her chamber door, the magical barrier should have stopped her. But it didn't. The darkness had weakened it. She ran, not away, toward the screams. The lower levels of Shadowcrest had become chaos. Warriors collapsed on the ground. Their bodies shook violently. Dark veins spread across their skin. The plague moved like poison through their souls. Caleb stood in the center of the destruction, trying to hold back infected wolves who had lost control. His power was enormous, but even he was struggling. Then he saw her, Elara. She ignored him. She walked forward. A warrior lunged. Caleb moved. But Elara raised her hands. A light exploded from her palms. Not ordinary magic. Something pure. Something ancient. The entire chamber went silent. Golden white energy flowed through the room. It wrapped around the infected wolves. The darkness screamed, literally screamed. as if it was alive and terrified. Elara closed her eyes. Her red-brown hair lifted in the magical wind. Her emerald eyes burned brighter than the stars. And then she healed them, one by one. The warriors stopped shaking. The black veins disappeared. The corrupted magic dissolved. The wolves collapsed safely into unconsciousness. Alive. Saved. Caleb stood completely still. He had seen every kind of magic in his lifetime. Dark magic, blood magic, ancient curses. Nothing compared to this. Because this magic did not destroy. It restored. It healed. It came from a soul untouched by darkness. His eyes locked onto Elara, the woman he had called traitor, the woman he had sworn to punish. A traitor's soul could never create something this pure. Impossible. Yet she had. And for the first time in years, Caleb wondered if the greatest betrayal he had ever suffered was not hers, but someone else's. The silence after the healing was more terrifying than the screams. Caleb stood among the wounded warriors, unable to move. The entire lower chamber had changed. Moments ago, it had been a place of death, a place where darkness crawled through veins and turned loyal wolves into monsters. Now, there was only stillness. Peace. Elara stood in the center of it all, breathing heavily. The radiant light surrounding her slowly faded. Her hands trembled. Her face had gone pale from exhaustion. But she remained standing. Caleb stared at her. The woman he had dragged into his castle as a prisoner. The woman he had accused of destroying everything he loved. The woman who had just saved the lives of the very people who hated her. His mind fought against what his eyes had witnessed. A traitor would have let them die. A traitor would have used their suffering as an opportunity. A traitor would not have burned herself from the inside to heal strangers. But Elara had, without hesitation, without expecting anything in return. How? One of the warriors whispered. Caleb looked around. His people were looking at her differently, not with hatred, not with suspicion, with confusion, and something dangerously close to respect. Elara looked toward Caleb. For a moment, neither spoke. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Who taught you that magic? Why don't you remember me? Why does my soul still recognize yours? But before he could say anything, a sharp pain crossed Elara's face. She stumbled. Caleb moved instantly. His hand caught her before she fell. The reaction was automatic. Protect her. His wolf demanded it. Elara looked at his hand around her arm, then at his face. Neither of them spoke, because they both felt it, that invisible connection, that impossible pull. Caleb immediately released her. His expression hardened. You should rest. Elara looked away. You still think I'm your enemy. The words were quiet. Caleb had no answer, because for the first time, he didn't know. Above the castle, hidden within the highest tower, Victor watched through a black crystal. The high priest's expression was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that belonged to someone who had already planned every possible outcome. His fingers rested against the crystal surface. Through it, he saw Elara, saw the magic that flowed from her, saw the way Caleb looked at her. A dangerous spark of anger appeared in his eyes. No. His voice was barely audible. This was not supposed to happen. For years, Victor had controlled the shadows surrounding Shadowcrest. He had erased memories, manipulated truths, destroyed bonds, all so the kingdom would remain vulnerable, so Caleb would remain broken, so no one would discover the power hidden inside Elara's soul. But now she had awakened. Not completely, not yet, but enough. Enough to threaten everything. Victor's expression turned cold. If she remembers, everything collapses. He turned away from the crystal. A group of figures emerged from the darkness behind him. Shadow assassins. Silent. Faceless. Their bodies were wrapped in enchanted armor that absorbed light itself. Find the healer. The assassins bowed. Kill her before the Alpha King understands what she truly is. The next few days were chaos. Shadowcrest struggled to recover. The plague had weakened hundreds of warriors. The castle healers worked endlessly, but every person knew the truth. Elara had saved them. The whispers changed, not completely. Some still hated her. Some still believed the past could not be forgiven. But fear had replaced certainty, because no one knew what to think anymore, especially Caleb. He watched her constantly. Elara noticed. You know, for someone who believes I am dangerous, you spend a lot of time protecting me. They stood in a castle corridor surrounded by ancient stone walls. Caleb's expression remained unreadable. You mistake protection for surveillance. A small smile touched her lips. You are terrible at lying. Something flickered in his eyes. For a second, she saw the man beneath the title. Not the Alpha King. Not the ruthless ruler. Just Caleb. The person she somehow missed, even though she couldn't remember him. That thought frightened her. I don't understand you. Caleb looked at her. I don't understand you either. The honesty surprised them both. Then the candles along the corridor went out, one by one. Darkness swallowed the hall. Caleb immediately moved. His body shifted in front of Elara, a protective wall. Stay behind me. Elara felt the change instantly. The warmth disappeared from him. The warrior returned. 3 figures stepped from the shadows. Then 5. Then 10. Shadow assassins. Caleb's eyes narrowed. Who sent you? No answer. The assassins attacked. The corridor exploded into movement. Caleb fought like a force of nature. Every strike was precise, every movement deadly. But they were not there for him. They were there for Elara. She realized too late. One assassin slipped past him. A black blade appeared. Elara froze. The weapon moved toward her chest. Then the world shattered. The wall beside her exploded. Stone flew through the corridor. A massive figure crashed through the destruction. Caleb. He had crossed the distance too fast for anyone to see. His towering body slammed into the assassin, but the blade had already moved, and it found its target, his chest. Time stopped. Elara's eyes widened. Caleb, the assassin smiled. The blade was cursed, poisoned, designed specifically to kill an alpha. Caleb looked down at the weapon buried in him, then back at Elara. The first emotion on his face was not anger, not pain, fear. Fear for her. He grabbed the assassin by the throat. You touched her. The darkness around him erupted. The corridor shook. The remaining assassins attacked together, but they were too late. The Alpha King had stopped holding back. Caleb moved through them like a storm. Every strike carried years of rage. Every movement carried the instinct of a wolf protecting his mate. The assassins fell, one after another. The last one tried to escape. Caleb grabbed him. Tell Victor! The assassin's eyes widened, because Caleb knew. He knew who was behind this. Tell him. Caleb's voice became a terrifying whisper, that I am coming. Then he dropped the assassin. Silence returned. And then Caleb collapsed. Caleb! Elara rushed forward. He hit the ground heavily. The poison was already spreading. Black veins crawled across his chest. His breathing became uneven. His skin burned beneath her hands. No. The word escaped her. Not because he was her captor. Not because he was the Alpha King. Because something inside her was screaming, do not lose him. Never lose him. She pressed her hands against his wound. The blood covering his chest was warm, real. His heartbeat was weakening. Caleb, stay awake. His eyes opened slightly. Even now, even dying. He looked at her first, not himself, her. You should have run. His voice was weak. Elara's tears fell. You saved me. Always did. The words hit her. Always. A strange pain exploded through her mind. She gasped. What did you say? But Caleb had already lost consciousness. Elara didn't think. She couldn't. She placed both hands against his chest. Light erupted. Her magic poured into him, not gentle this time, desperate, powerful. Her soul reached for his, and something reached back. The moment their magic connected, the world disappeared. Elara saw stars, a field beneath a silver sky. A younger Caleb stood beside her, not the ruthless king, a boy, A boy with softer eyes, a boy who looked at her like she was the entire universe. I will protect you. His younger voice echoed, no matter what happens. She saw herself laughing. Young, happy, alive. She saw matching pendants, two small pieces of silver shaped like intertwined moons. One around her neck, one around his. She heard her own voice. I choose you, Caleb. Then another memory, his hand holding hers, his forehead resting against hers, a promise made beneath endless stars. We will find each other again. The vision shattered. Elara returned to reality with a cry. She pulled in a desperate breath. Tears streamed down her face. Her hands remained pressed against Caleb's chest. But now, she saw him differently. Not as a monster. Not as the man who imprisoned her. As the boy who had loved her. As the man who had spent years believing she destroyed him. As the person who had just thrown himself between her and death without hesitation. Her magic trembled. Her heart broke. Caleb? His name felt different. Familiar. Like something she had been searching for her entire life. Fragments continued flashing. His smile, his promises, his arms around her, the warmth of belonging, the feeling of home. Elara looked down at the unconscious Alpha King, the terrifying ruler everyone feared, the man who claimed she betrayed him. And slowly, painfully, she began to understand. He wasn't a stranger. He was the missing piece of a life stolen from her. And someone had taken that life away on purpose. Her tears fell onto his chest. I loved you. The words escaped before she even realized she said them. The chamber remained silent. But somewhere deep inside Caleb's soul, something heard her. Caleb heard her, not with his ears, with something deeper. Something buried beneath years of pain, anger, and unanswered questions. The words reached him in the darkness. I loved you. A heartbeat later, his eyes opened. The first thing he saw was Elara. Not the ceiling, not the ruined corridor. Her. She was sitting beside him on the stone floor, her hands still pressed against his chest. Her face was pale. Her beautiful red-brown hair fell messily around her shoulders. Tears traced paths down her cheeks. She looked exhausted, broken, but alive. And she was looking at him like she was afraid he would disappear. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Caleb tried to speak. Nothing came out. His body felt heavy but not weak. The poison was gone, completely, impossible. A cursed blade designed to kill an Alpha King should have taken days to recover from. But Elara had healed him, again. Her magic had reached places no healer had ever touched. His eyes dropped to her hands. They were trembling. You used too much power. His voice was rough. Elara blinked. A fresh tear slipped down her face. You almost died. The simple statement carried more pain than anger. Caleb stared at her. I survived. Because I healed you. A silence fell. Then she whispered, because I couldn't lose you. Those words struck him harder than the blade. Caleb pushed himself up slowly. Elara immediately tried to help him. The moment her hand touched his shoulder, both of them froze. The connection returned. Stronger, deeper. Like the memories from her mind had opened a door neither of them could close again. Caleb looked at her, really looked. Not at the woman he thought betrayed him. Not at the enemy he had hunted for years. At Elara. His Elara. The girl beneath the stars. The girl who used to steal his weapons and laugh when he pretended to be angry. The girl who promised she would always find her way back to him. His expression changed. For the first time since she returned, the hatred disappeared. Only pain remained. You saw something. Elara's lips parted. Yes. What? She swallowed. You. His breath caught. The memories. Her fingers curled. I saw us. The room became unbearably quiet. Caleb looked away. Because hearing those words from her felt more dangerous than any battlefield. You remember? Not everything. She touched her temple. But pieces. Her eyes filled again. I saw you protecting me. Caleb's jaw tightened. I failed. No. Her voice became stronger. You didn't. He looked at her. Elara moved closer. You spent years believing I destroyed you. A bitter smile crossed his face. Because you did. The words hurt them both, but Elara didn't retreat. Then why did you save me? Caleb had no answer. Because there was no logical answer. He had hated her. He had dreamed of revenge. He had imagined making her suffer the way he suffered. But when death came for her, he didn't think. He moved. Because some bonds were stronger than hatred. Some promises survived even when memories died. I don't know how to hate you anymore. The confession was quiet, almost painful. Elara stared at him, the ruthless alpha king, the man everyone feared, admitting weakness because of her. She lifted her hand, slowly, giving him every chance to stop her. Her fingers touched his face. Caleb closed his eyes. That single touch nearly broke him. I was looking for you. Her voice trembled, even when I didn't know your name. His eyes opened. The world narrowed. There was no castle, no pack, no war, only them. His hand moved to her waist, carefully, almost like he was afraid she would vanish. Elara leaned closer, their foreheads touched. For a moment, the years between them disappeared. The betrayal, the pain, the missing memories, everything. Caleb's breathing changed. So did hers. The pull between them was overwhelming, ancient, impossible to resist. His wolf recognized her. Her soul recognized him. Every instinct inside him screamed the same thing. Mate. Mine. But Caleb stopped. His hand tightened slightly against her waist, then released. Elara looked confused. Why did you stop? His eyes darkened. Because I don't know if I deserve this. The honesty shocked her. You think you don't? I imprisoned you. You were hurt. I accused you. You didn't know the truth. I wanted revenge. Her hand moved to his chest, over the place where the blade had entered. Yet you took a poisoned blade for me. Caleb looked at her. You still don't understand. What? His voice became rough. I would die for you. The words hung between them. Then the castle screamed. The ground exploded beneath them. The entire fortress shook violently. Stone cracked. Ancient pillars collapsed. The magical flames along the walls turned black. Caleb instantly moved. He pulled Elara behind him. His body became a shield. The same way it always had. The same way it always would. A deep, rumbling sound spread through the castle. Not an earthquake. Magic. Dark magic. Caleb's expression turned cold. No. The air changed. Every breath became heavier. The entire Shadowcrest castle was surrounded by a massive circle of corrupted energy. A dark magic prison. A spell designed not just to trap bodies, but souls. Below them, screams echoed through the halls. The pack. Caleb's eyes narrowed. The circle was draining them. Their strength, their life force. Even the strongest warriors were weakening. Elara felt it. The pain, the suffering. Her magic reacted immediately. She stepped forward. Caleb stopped her. No. She looked at him. They need me. They need you alive. A violent force struck the castle. The walls trembled. Then a voice echoed through every chamber. How touching. Victor. The high priest appeared above the central hall, floating within a storm of black energy. Behind him stood corrupted Shadowcrest guards. Their eyes were empty, their souls consumed. Caleb's entire body went rigid. Victor. The high priest smiled. Alpha King. Victor looked almost amused, still protecting her. Caleb's aura exploded. The entire castle shook. You did this. Victor laughed. Of course I did. The guards surrounding him stepped forward. Caleb's eyes became lethal. You poisoned my people. I improved them. Victor spread his arms. You always lacked vision, Caleb. Vision? Caleb's voice was terrifying. You destroyed my kingdom. Victor smiled. No. He looked at Elara. I saved it from weakness. Elara felt a chill. Caleb moved slightly in front of her. Victor noticed and laughed. Still. The high priest shook his head. After everything, you still stand between her and danger. His smile became cruel. You never understood the truth. Caleb's hands clenched. Then speak. Victor's eyes gleamed. Gladly. The dark magic around him intensified. Elara never betrayed you. The world stopped. Caleb froze. Victor continued. She never sold out Shadowcrest. She never abandoned you. Every word struck like a weapon. I did. Silence. Even the corrupted guards seemed to disappear. Caleb stared. Victor smiled. I erased her memories. Elara's breath stopped. I manipulated the evidence. Caleb's expression became empty. I made you believe the woman you loved was your enemy. Victor stepped closer, because her existence threatened everything I built. The high priest's voice became filled with arrogance. Elara carried the ancient soul-healing power of Shadowcrest's first bloodline, a power that could cleanse corruption and unite the pack. His eyes darkened. I needed that power. Caleb's breathing became dangerous. So you destroyed her life? Victor shrugged. Temporary sacrifice. The Alpha King's aura erupted. The air cracked. You stole her memories. A tremor passed through the castle. You stole my mate. Another crack. You destroyed my people. The shadows around Caleb exploded outward. Victor smiled. Yes. The answer was the final mistake. Caleb roared. Not like a man, like a wolf. A primal, furious sound that shook the foundations of Shadowcrest Castle. The mountain beneath them trembled. The dark magic circle flickered. Even Victor's expression changed, because he had never seen Caleb like this. Not angry, not violent, broken. A king who had discovered his entire life had been built on a lie. But then Elara moved. Slowly. Victor looked toward her, and his smile faded, because something had changed. She wasn't crying. She wasn't afraid. She was standing completely still. Her emerald eyes were wide, not with fear, with memory. The words had unlocked something. Erased memories, buried promises, lost years, all crashing back at once. She saw Victor. She saw the spell. She saw herself screaming as darkness consumed her mind. She saw Caleb searching for her. She saw the moment she was taken away. She saw the truth. Her body trembled. Victor? The high priest's expression finally changed. A flicker of fear. Because he understood. The seal was breaking. Elara lifted her head. Her eyes began glowing with ancient light. You didn't just erase my memories. Her voice was different, stronger, older. You tried to erase who I was. The darkness around Victor recoiled. Caleb turned toward her. And for the first time, he saw the full power sleeping inside his lost mate. The power Victor had spent years trying to bury. Elara took one step forward. The entire castle responded. The ancient stones, the forgotten magic, the very soul of Shadowcrest. Everything awakened, because the woman who had been stolen from them was finally remembering who she truly was. Elara could hear everything, every lie, every stolen moment, every piece of her life that had been ripped away. And then the final seal broke. The pain was immediate. She gasped and grabbed her head. Her knees nearly gave out. Elara! Caleb moved toward her, but she couldn't hear him, not anymore. The world around her shattered into fragments of memory, not dreams, not illusions. Her life, her truth. She saw herself as a child running through the gardens of Shadowcrest. She saw Caleb chasing after her, laughing despite pretending to be serious. She saw the young alpha heir who was already stronger than everyone around him. But with her, he was gentle, always gentle. She remembered sitting beneath the ancient silver trees, her head resting against his shoulder. She remembered the first time she healed a wounded animal. The fear in her heart, the tears in her eyes, and Caleb's hand covering hers. Your power isn't something to fear, his younger voice echoed. It is the most beautiful part of you. Another memory crashed through, the matching pendants, the promise, the night beneath the stars, the moment their souls connected, their bond, their love. Then came the darkness. Victor, his false kindness, his poisonous words, the spell, the moment he ripped away her memories, the moment he made her believe she was nobody, the moment he stole Elara from herself. She screamed. The entire castle shook. A wave of energy exploded from her body. Caleb froze, because the woman standing before him was no longer the frightened healer he had captured in the forest. She was still Elara, but awakened. The fragile confusion had disappeared. The uncertainty was gone. The woman who stood there carried the presence of something ancient, something powerful, something Victor had spent years trying to bury. Her emerald green eyes opened, and they were no longer simply beautiful. They were radiant, blazing, like twin stars burning with divine light. Her red-brown hair lifted around her as a violent magical wind surrounded her. The dark magic choking the castle began to retreat, not because she attacked it, because it feared her. Victor's confident expression finally disappeared. No, the word escaped him, small, weak, impossible. Elara slowly lowered her hands. She looked at Caleb. For a moment, the entire battlefield disappeared. There was only him, the boy she loved, the man who had waited for her even while believing she destroyed him, the man who had protected her when she couldn't even remember him. Her eyes softened. Caleb. Hearing her say his name like that nearly broke him. Not the confused version, not the stranger, the real Elara, his Elara. His wolf surged forward. Mate. The bond recognized her completely. Caleb stepped toward her, but Elara turned. Victor was still there, and now she remembered everything. The high priest stepped backward. You don't understand what you've awakened. Elara looked at him. Her expression was calm, terrifyingly calm. No. Her voice carried through the entire castle. I understand perfectly. The dark magic circle above Shadowcrest pulsed violently. It had drained thousands, it had poisoned the land, it had consumed innocent lives. Victor raised his hands. The corrupted energy gathered around him. You think your little healing magic can defeat me? Elara looked upward, then back at him. It was never just healing. A silence fell. Caleb watched carefully. Even he did not understand what was happening. Elara lifted her hand. A small spark of light appeared above her palm. Beautiful, pure, then it changed. The light expanded. The air screamed. The castle walls trembled. Victor's eyes widened. Because this was not the gentle magic he had erased from her. This was something far older. The first light of Shadowcrest. The power of purification. Elara stepped forward, past Caleb. His enormous frame had always stood between her and danger. But now, she stood between danger and everyone else. Caleb stared at her back. At the woman who had once needed his protection, now protecting an entire kingdom. The realization struck him with overwhelming force. He had thought he was saving her, but all along, she had been the one capable of saving them all. The storm began. Not a storm of wind, a storm of light. A massive wave of radiant energy erupted from Elara. It covered the entire castle. The dark magic circle above the mountains shook violently. Victor screamed, "No!" The purification storm crashed into the corrupted energy. The sky split. Black clouds tore apart. The massive dark circle that had trapped Shadowcrest began cracking like glass. One fracture, then another, then thousands. The sound echoed across the mountains, like the world itself rejecting the darkness. Victor summoned more shadows. They rushed toward Elara. Thousands of corrupted threads, ancient curses, forbidden magic, everything he had collected over years, all of it launched toward her. Elara did not move. The storm around her intensified. The shadows touched the light and vanished. Not destroyed, purified. The corruption screamed as it was erased. Victor's guards charged, their bodies twisted by dark magic, their souls trapped beneath his control. For a moment, Caleb prepared to fight. Then he stopped. Because Elara moved first. A wave of radiant power exploded outward. It did not harm the warriors. It reached inside them, found the darkness, removed it. One by one, the corrupted guards fell to their knees. The black energy left their bodies like smoke. Their eyes cleared. They looked around in confusion. Free. The entire pack watched. Silent. Thousands of wolves. Thousands of warriors. All staring at the woman standing beneath a sky filled with divine light. The woman they once called traitor. The woman who had returned as their salvation. The Luna. someone whispered. The word spread. The true Luna. Caleb heard it, and something inside him changed. For years, he had carried the crown of Alpha alone, a king surrounded by warriors, a ruler surrounded by fear. But now he understood. Shadowcrest had never been complete without her. Elara raised both hands. The purification storm reached its peak. Above the castle, the dark circle shattered. Completely. A wave of pure light tore across the heavens. The darkness disappeared. The clouds parted. And for the first time in years, Shadowcrest saw the stars again. Victor collapsed backward. His power was gone. His carefully built world was falling apart. You. His voice shook. You cannot destroy everything I created. Elara looked at him. I am not destroying it. The light around her burned brighter. I am cleansing it. Victor's face twisted with hatred. You were supposed to be forgotten. Elara walked toward him. Each step caused the remaining darkness to disappear. You made one mistake. Victor looked up. What? Her eyes burned. You thought my memories were my power. She stopped in front of him. They were never my power. The air went still. My soul was. Victor had no answer, because he finally understood. He had not defeated Elara. He had only delayed her awakening. Caleb approached slowly. The entire battlefield watched. The Alpha King. The woman who had been lost. The two halves of an ancient bond. Elara looked at him. The divine light around her softened. The terrifying power faded. And beneath it all, she was still the same woman. The healer. The girl beneath the stars. The woman who had loved him before the world stole her away. Caleb stopped in front of her. For once, the ruthless Alpha King looked uncertain. Elara. Her expression softened. You remembered me. 1,000 emotions crossed his face. I never forgot you. The words were quiet, but every person nearby heard them. Elara's eyes filled. Neither of them moved, because after years of pain, after betrayal, after stolen memories, after believing they had lost each other forever, they were standing together again. The true Luna had returned. The dark magic was broken, but the war was not over, because Victor was still alive. And as he stared at the two people who had ruined everything he built, his hatred became something far more dangerous. A final desperation, a final attempt. But this time, Elara remembered who she was, and Shadowcrest remembered who stood beside its Alpha King. Victor stumbled backward. For the first time in years, fear appeared on his face. Not the false fear he used to manipulate others, not the carefully crafted expression of a priest who pretended to serve a higher purpose. Real fear, because the one person he had spent years trying to erase was standing before him completely awakened. And she remembered everything. You cannot win, Victor whispered. Elara stared at him. The glow in her emerald eyes burned brighter. You already lost. The words were calm, certain. Victor's hands trembled as he gathered the last fragments of his corrupted magic. The darkness around him twisted violently. Broken pieces of the ancient circle. The remains of his stolen power. Everything he had sacrificed innocent lives to obtain. He pulled it all into himself. The air became heavy. The castle walls groaned. Then I will take everything with me. The corrupted energy exploded outward. Caleb moved instantly. He stepped in front of Elara, but this time, she did not stand behind him. She stepped beside him. Together, their eyes met. No words were needed. They had spent years separated by lies, separated by pain, separated by a stolen past. But their souls had always known the truth. Caleb reached for her hand. The moment their fingers touched, their bond ignited. Light and shadow, strength and healing. Two forces that had once been torn apart, now united. A surge of power rushed through Caleb's body. The wounds from the poisoned blade vanished completely. His muscles tightened, his entire presence changed. The Alpha King awakened, dark energy erupted around him. Not the corrupted darkness Victor used, something different, something controlled, something ancient. His eyes shifted into the terrifying gaze of his true wolf. His body transformed. The air shook as his massive alpha combat form emerged. A towering beast of black fur and silver markings. A legendary wolf that carried the strength of Shadowcrest itself. The warriors watching fell silent. They had seen Caleb fight before. They had seen his power, but never like this. Because this time, he was not fighting from anger. He was fighting from love. Elara stood beside him. Her radiant magic flowed around his dark form. The sight was impossible. A creature of shadow surrounded by divine light. Not enemies, not opposites. Perfect balance. Victor stared. No. The word escaped him again, because he finally understood. The bond he tried to destroy was the very thing that made them unstoppable. Caleb moved first. The ground shattered beneath his paws. He crossed the battlefield in a blur of black and silver. Victor unleashed wave after wave of corrupted magic. Elara raised her hand. The darkness vanished before it reached them. Every curse, every shadow, every poisoned spell, purified. Caleb tore through the remaining corrupted guards, but he did not destroy them. Not anymore. Elara's light had freed them. And Caleb understood the difference between justice and revenge. Victor had stolen lives. He had manipulated souls. He had destroyed a bond because he believed power belonged only to those willing to take it. But Shadowcrest was proving him wrong. Together. Caleb and Elara advanced. Victor retreated. The arrogant high priest who had once controlled everything was now trapped. Alone, weak, desperate. You were nothing without me, Victor spat. Caleb returned to his human form, slowly, deliberately. The battlefield went silent. The Alpha King walked toward Victor. Not as a monster, not as a beast, as a man delivering judgment. Victor looked up. You need me. Caleb stopped. No. His voice was cold. You were the reason I lost her. A pause. You were the reason I lost myself. Victor laughed weakly. And now you think killing me fixes everything? Caleb's dark gray eyes hardened. No. He looked back at Elara. She stood beneath the stars, her power glowing softly around her. My mate already healed what you broke. Victor's expression changed, because that was the one thing he could never understand. He believed power came from control, from fear, from destroying anyone who threatened him. But Elara's power came from something he had never possessed. Love. Caleb turned back. This is for every life you stole. Victor's smile disappeared. For every memory you erased. The Alpha King's voice lowered. For every moment you took from us. The final judgment came quickly. Caleb's hand closed around Victor's shoulder. The high priest tried to summon darkness. Nothing happened. His power was gone, purified. He looked at Caleb, and for the first time, he looked small. The ruthless Alpha King ended the betrayal with his own hands. No celebration followed, no cheers, only silence, because everyone understood. A darkness that had poisoned Shadowcrest for years had finally ended. Victor fell, and the kingdom was free. The battlefield became quiet. The fires slowly faded. Ash drifted through the night air. Above them, the stars returned. The same stars that had witnessed a promise years ago. The same stars that had watched a young boy swear to protect a girl he loved. Caleb stood among the remains of the battle. His armor was damaged. Ash covered his body, blood marked his skin. But the emptiness that had haunted him for years was gone. He looked toward Elara, and everything else disappeared. The warriors, the castle, the war, only her. He walked toward her slowly. Every step carried the weight of his regret. When he reached her, the terrifying Alpha King of Shadowcrest stopped. The man who had commanded armies. The man who made enemies tremble. The man who had never bowed to anyone. Dropped to one knee. The entire battlefield went silent. Caleb took her hands. His powerful fingers trembled. Then he pressed his lips against them. A gesture of devotion. Not surrender, never weakness. Something far stronger. I was wrong. His voice broke. I spent years hating you for a crime you never committed. Elara looked down at him. His eyes held no pride, no arrogance, only honesty. I doubted you. His grip tightened gently. I failed to protect your heart when I should have protected it above everything else. A tear slipped down Elara's face. Caleb continued, I cannot erase the pain I caused. His voice lowered. But I swear I will spend the rest of my life proving that the love we lost was never truly gone. For years, Elara had imagined finding Caleb again. She had imagined anger, questions, answers. But she had never imagined this. The strongest man she had ever known kneeling before her, not because he was defeated, but because he loved her. She smiled softly. Then she bent down. Her fingers touched his face, the same face she had seen in her memories, the same face that had looked for her across years of darkness. Caleb. He looked up. You never lost me. His expression broke. Elara wiped the dirt from his cheek. You found me again. Caleb closed his eyes against her touch. Then she pulled him upward. The Alpha King rose. The distance between them disappeared. And finally, after years of separation, after stolen memories, after betrayal and heartbreak, their bond returned completely. Their lips met. The kiss was not gentle. It was not hesitant. It carried everything they had lost, every year apart, every unanswered question, every moment they thought they would never have again. It was fierce, desperate, a promise stronger than words. The bond between them erupted. Light and shadow intertwined across the battlefield. The entire pack felt it. A restored connection. A completed soul bond. The true Luna had returned. The Alpha King had found his heart again. And Shadowcrest finally became whole. Later, when the first dawn touched the mountains, the kingdom would remember the battle as the night darkness fell forever. They would remember Victor's betrayal. They would remember the suffering. But most of all, they would remember the woman who returned without her memories and still chose to heal the world that had forgotten her. Because true love does not disappear when the past is hidden. It sees beyond deception, finds the wounded soul beneath the pain, and proves that even the deepest scars can be healed when two hearts choose each other again. If you enjoyed this unexpected journey and want to experience more thrilling mysteries and fierce romances, please subscribe to our channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Thank you for listening.